Hey everyone, Lena back with you in Insta Minutes, episode 64. We're going to spend 2 days in the book of Job, a crazy, awesome book. I don't even know where to start with Job. I've honed in on just 2 verses, and there's many others that are well-known and famous. I used to think Job was just a bunch of friends arguing for the much of the book, and the highlights happen in the beginning and then at the end, but so much wisdom in that. In fact, it is one of the wisdom literature books of the Bible, and it is thought to be time-wise one of the earliest books written. Job thought to live at the time of the patriarchs back in 2100 BC. It is the story of a man who went through a severe test of faith. The question of why do bad things happen to good people is answered in the book of Job, and we see in it as we make our way today and tomorrow through this book in a very quick, superficial fashion. We see how God defends his majesty and his otherness to a world that just doesn't understand it, and he is transcendent over all. He is in charge of everything. But the beginning is just a sobering reminder as you read through Job 1. You've got to listen. I don't care if you've skipped through other readings, you've got to read Job 1 and 2. It is crazy setup of the story, how Satan comes to God and sees Job, who's a man of God, and decides to attack him and say, man, he doesn't really believe you. He doesn't really trust you. He only trusts you because of what you've given him. And God says, fine, put him to the test. And what we see come through is a man much like us who sometimes questions God and constantly turns to God and is turned. His friends and his wife turn against him, and it's just a crazy story that will remind every one of us who is suffering today that there is a God who sees, there is a God who knows. But here's Job's response to the first huge wave of suffering crashing over him, where he loses everything, including the people in his life. He gets up in chapter 1, verse 20, and says, "Then Job arose and tore his robe and shaved his head and fell on the ground and worshipped." This is crazy. His kids have died. He's lost everything, and he worships. And he said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Job withstood that test early on. He later would have some questions about who God is, because God is so massive. Sometimes we have a hard time wrapping our minds around his mystery when difficult things happen in our life. But Job just exemplified what it means to have faith when you're severely tested. I called this teaching God giver of life, and I added, and all. God giver of life and all. Listen, our very breath, my ability to stand here and speak, is only mine because God has allowed me to do this. The minute God decides my time is up, my time is up. Same for you. How are you responding to the difficulties in your life? How are you responding to the joys in your life? If God forbid, a testing of this nature happens in your life, can you do what Job says? And if not, why not? That's the challenge that you and I need to think about today. If God is wise enough to put us here on this earth and to give us all that we have, then he's wise enough to know when we don't need it anymore. And so let's trust this God as hard as it can be sometime, and I'll see you again tomorrow.